Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sync Up Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things OneDrive. OneDrive is the home for all of the files that you care about most, and we are here to take you behind the scenes to get those insights and the knowledge that will make your lives better. My name is Stephen Rice, and I'm a Principal Product Manager on the OneDrive team, and I'm joined by my fellow OneDrive aficionado, Arvind Mishra.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arvind, and I'm also a Principal Product Manager on the OneDrive team. We are so excited to be back after a long hiatus. Today, we've got a great show for you with a great set of discussions and topics, including Sync Up Revive, what happened, why are we back? We've also got a recap on the M365 Collab Conference, joined by some very special guests, Irfan, Shahdad, and Miceile Barret. So excited.
Yeah, thanks, Arvind. So let's start by meeting our guest. Irfan, welcome to the OneDrive Sync Up Podcast.
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you, Stephen, for inviting us to this, and I'm looking forward to our conversation here.
Irfan, I'm super curious. Where are you coming from today?
I'm tuning in live from the wonderful state of Texas in Dallas area.
Excellent.
All right. We also have Miceile Barret. Miceile, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is really exciting. I was a longtime listener of the Sync Up, first time caller, I guess now. So I'm really excited to be here as we're spinning it back off. Yeah, Miceile Barret, and I'm calling in from Seattle. It is sunny and toasty and beautiful outside, so this is a great way to spend a Friday afternoon here.
I feel like Seattle this time of year is very intoxicating, and it's almost like if you're an intern and you come to Seattle this time of year, it's like you've been fooled because the rest of the year is not quite as beautiful as it is right now. Tell me I'm not wrong, Miceile.
Yeah, that's how they got me. I was an intern over the 90 days in a row that it was sunny in Seattle, and then the sun didn't set till like 10:30 p.m., so you could just do everything all day. And then when I moved here full time, I discovered that was not the situation. Those were the only 90 days of sunshine that you will see. But, I've been here for 7 years now, so clearly I stuck around.
All right. Now, before we get into the important topics, like what we're doing with the podcast, all the cool things that we announced this last month, I need to ask you both, or all three of you, a very important question. You are sitting down for a movie, your favorite movie. I'm just going to assume it's Star Wars, because of course that's everyone's favorite movie. What are you going for? Popcorn or M&Ms? Like, what's your choice?
I'm going to have to say popcorn. I actually have my own popcorn maker at home. So I really do enjoy popcorn. I have like an air popper, one that you can like use oil in, quite a bunch of options for me. So I will always go popcorn.
Fair. What about you, Irfan?
I'll go with popcorn too, but it was interesting you didn't mention popcorn with a few M&Ms in between just to mix it up a little bit. But
you mix them up. Oh, okay.
I asked my wife this question this morning, and she's like, well, there's places that do popcorn with M&Ms mixed in. And I'm super confused. Is this a thing? Like, have I just never heard of this before?
I just came up with the idea right now.
So you're a genius, is what I'm saying.
But I think I have a feeling that it'll actually be a great experience.
He's just made it a thing, Stephen. So you're such a trendsetter. I have another question for you, Irfan. What is your go-to karaoke song?
I'll just give you the one that I was just with my daughter on just recently. It was Do You Believe in Love? That in Love.
How's it go? Wait.
Bashir, have you heard it?
Oh, yeah. Of course I have.
It was just one of the things that I did with my daughter recently. It just came to my mind when you mentioned karaoke. So
that's a very touching song. I like it. Miceile, what's your go-to karaoke song here?
Yeah, I have one. I can't sing at all, but this song is one that I will belt out as best I can. It's London Bridge by Fergie.
It's a classic. That's a good one.
Yep, that's the go-to. You can catch me at Ozzy's on Saturday.
Nice. I think I've actually been there. I haven't seen you there, but I've been there before. So
Michaela's there every night.
Singing my one song.
Like, oh, she's back.
All right. Well, I think that's enough fun and games. Now it's time for the real topics that people are here for. Arvind, let's talk about the Sync Up Podcast Revived.
Indeed. Where have we been, Stephen? Like for the last year and change? Like what happened to us?
I mean, it's very simple. So any of you who have been listening to the Sync Up podcast for a long time, you know, we had two hosts, Ankita Kirti and Jason Moore. And Jason Moore is, of course, the VP of OneDrive. I don't want to name names, but it is all Jason's fault. He left the podcast in the lurch. He was busy with other things that were supposedly important, like making OneDrive the greatest product in Microsoft 365. And now we're back. Like, we are here to actually like make the podcast amazing. It's not that it wasn't amazing before. It's not that I'm trying to say, but I'm really excited for what's to come here.
It's all new and revamped. Yeah, I think that's a general statement. When things go wrong in life, I think you can generally blame Jason Moore for those. But that said, we are really excited to be back because over the next, starting with today and over the next couple of months, we're going to be talking about all kinds of new things that are coming your way on the OneDrive commercial experience. There's features that are going to be released in the Find, Organize, and Act area. We've got new UI and personalized experiences that we're going to be talking about. And obviously, OneDrive is one of the best ways to collaborate with folks in your organization as well as outside of your organization. And we've got a ton of great things in that area that we'll be talking about over the next couple of months.
Yeah, so what you can expect, Sync Up, the OneDrive podcast, you will have a new episode in your inbox. It's not really an inbox, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like all the places you consume your podcasts. You'll have a Sync Up episode once a month. So a great way to learn about the latest and greatest features from the team, hear directly from the experts like Miceile and Irfan. And once we start getting listener questions or comments, we would love to discuss those on air as well. So that's kind of our hint for like, hey, send us comments and things. We'll talk about more at the end of the episode. And then we've definitely got a lot of other things we're doing to help you learn about OneDrive. So we've got blogs that'll be up at the blog, which is aka.ms/OneDrive blog, and a lot of cool stuff like that. So definitely follow the team on LinkedIn, on Twitter, follow the podcast. And it's going to be quite the year of OneDrive. I mean, Arvind, you've formed the hype team as it is. And there is just so much good stuff coming down the line. I'm really excited.
Yeah, one thing I do want to say about the blog real quick is that we're going to have lots of great topics like following the podcast, but like we're hoping to really give our readers a great sense of like how we built things, why we built them, really to give you like an inside baseball type look on all things OneDrive. So if you have thoughts about how we can make it better, like Steven said, please write in with questions for the podcast as well as for the blog. It all kind of goes to the same place. Steven, what's next?
Yeah, so now let's get into the big meat of our discussion for today, which is talking about everything that we announced at the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference. So this was back in early May in Las Vegas, you know, home of, I mean, I guess there's other homes of collaboration conferences, I think. There's the European Collaboration Conference as well. But in this case, we had our big conference. Miceile and Irfan, you were both there. Before we even get into the announcements, this is one of the first big events I feel like the team has gotten to attend in the last 3 years for undisclosed reasons that are totally not secret at all. What was it like? What was it like being surrounded by customers again?
For me, this was a very invigorating experience. Like you had mentioned, there'd been a couple of connections with customers here and there throughout the last 3 years. But this was the first time where, I mean, we just took like a video of people walking into the keynote and it felt like people were rushing a concert stadium. And so it was just so many customers around combined with a passion for what we were showing that it made everything extremely engaging and fun, as well as a lot of stuff to take back to our team, right? Like when we're there at the conference, Irfan and I were there, but the real value is that then I had hours of feedback and presentations to share with our team back in Redmond to show everything that we got feedback on, what people are getting excited for. And so I think like it's a very powerful way for us to connect with customers as well as kind of get our own team energized for the upcoming year.
Miceile, a question for you about like the folks that attend, like who attends the Collab conference? You said customers. That's a very wide group of people. So like who's going to this?
Well, so the people that attended are a mix of kind of IT folks and IT experts combined with the kind of power user that we see inside of like the SharePoint ecosystem. And then also the pure end user that is either just slightly more interested in tech or tools, but wouldn't necessarily classify themselves as IT. And so when we were getting feedback, especially in that OneDrive session, we had such a cool mix of the people that are, maybe they're leading a smaller company and they're kind of the volunteer IT expert. But they're truly, at the end of the day, an end user who's just trying to get the most out of our products to save time. And then we saw, the Mr. OneDrive, the folks in the audience that we know and love and have been working with for years, where they're sitting front row and they know our admin control center better than I think I probably will ever know in my entire life. And so the audience is just comprised of such a spectrum. And it speaks to our product, the fact that we have a product that covers so many different roles. But to answer your question in a short statement, it's usually the IT experts at a company.
Gotcha. My next question, who is Mr. OneDrive?
Mr. OneDrive is a pillar of the community. I kind of joined the OneDrive space about 4 years ago, and that was the first time I ever met him. And he has, his online account where he's Mr. OneDrive and will give incredible feedback on the products, help us when we have questions or concerns, and is a very engaged member of the community. I think he's published a couple of books on OneDrive and how to use them and a lot of tools there. So it's a really cool person to meet.
Irfan, you joined the OneDrive team pretty recently, just over a year ago now. This was your first big conference as part of the team. What's it like coming into Microsoft and becoming, like a rock star? You're walking on stage, there's fireworks going off, I assume.
For me, I started Microsoft last year in May, and it had been barely a year. And, as you all know, I'm a remote employee in Dallas. And so I had not even met my team. So a lot of the team members that I work with on a daily basis, some of them I met at the conference for the very first time. So that was one aspect of it. The other one, so in many ways, I told some of the folks that this felt like day one for me at the conference and as well as an employee in Microsoft. So it was full of excitement, but also a few nerves because, you're meeting folks for the very first time. And then at the conference, I've been to several conferences in my life and presented in many of them. The pandemic has sort of given us sort of a break in terms of how you would typically engage with your customers and your partners. And I think it was just super exciting to be able to connect with customers live in person. It was a realization that there is no real replacement yet. We all work in technology and collaboration and all the tools that we have available, which are awesome. But there is something to be said about in-person, face-to-face, building that connection with the customer, hearing feedback live from them, getting that excitement or somewhat of a frown, which is all well-meaning frown, or even just positive feedback from our customers. So it was great on many ways in terms of me connecting with not just our customers, but also with my own team. So super exciting that way.
And I'm sure you both can confirm for Arvind and I that we only heard good things about OneDrive. There was no feedback on things we could do better, features that are, could be improved. It's all positive feedback, right?
It absolutely was. It was all positive feedback, cheers and applause, but also a friendly reminder here and there about things that we can actually do better, even better than where we are. So, which is exactly why we're here.
What's something that you heard from customers that you really took to heart? Either, we want to change something or something that where a feature is coming down the pipe that is going to make their lives better? What was a piece of feedback that you heard?
For me, it was not necessarily a specific feature, although one of the biggest realizations for us, as product managers is when you build features, you always have to keep in mind the impact it has on our end customers. And how they need to prepare their users. Let's say talk about your IT admins or your MVPs and how they sort of present our features to the end users. There's a huge impact there in terms of how we build and how it sort of has an effect on the end users who consume these features. Miceile.
I think mine were two pretty specific ones. The first thing that I heard from feedback was after we had done the deeper dive in the OneDrive session, and we'll get into this later in the podcast too, where we really showed this concept of we want you to find your content, thinking about like where did you actually receive or hear about it, right? Was it in a meeting? Was it from someone that shared it with you? And so we have all these new ways in the product to discover content based on the context. And so a customer came up to me and was just like, well, could you do this for emails? And I think, one, yes, absolutely, we want to do that. And two, I just love that it felt like the customers were almost sitting there in like the design and product planning meetings with us, really going on the journey that we want to take them on. And so I thought it was a very inspiring question because like the answer is obviously yes. But then the second thing is the fact that like our customer's mind is going to exactly where we're going. So I think it resonates that we're building something along the route that people are needing. The second thing that resonated with me, this is just one that I've heard for a couple of years, and this conference, it probably came up more frequently than in the past. And it was really asking for an archive solution, like something that comes out of box with OneDrive that helps you take not just your files even, right? Like a list item or a SharePoint site and really put it into some sort of archive that has friendly UI, clear guidelines, and the IT department is able to teach people about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kind of dive into some of the kind of bigger announcements and really start picking them apart. Irfan, you kind of mentioned OneDrive Home. So the new kind of OneDrive web view we're working on. What is that? Why should users be excited about OneDrive Home? Paint me a word picture.
Yeah, the word picture. The way that I would describe OneDrive Home using no visuals at all is really a landing space that gives you content that's smart and designed for you. So when you land there, the first thing that we've really done to improve it is a section on the page that's recommendations for you. That's powered by our AI to show you things. And it's not just content that you've been shared, right? It's something where it's like maybe someone left you a comment and you haven't replied for a few days, or maybe you shared something and no one's replied, so it appears, right? So it's really showing you something that we believe is going to be the file you're looking for. So it takes away a lot of steps to find the content. And then it also puts your recent files right front and center. And so I love that. And then me personally, the thing that I work on the closest with OneDrive are the basically every pixel on the page and how it looks. So I got to do a selfish plug here where it just looks beautiful. We really reduced the visual noise on the page. And that's such maybe like too designer heavy speak there. But what it means when you look at the page is you just see your files. There's no longer a lot of elements that are distracting. And our goal with that is to make it clear that like when you land on OneDrive, you're supposed to be looking for your content, right? Not necessarily scrolling through all this bunch of stuff that we have there in case you need it. And so you'll notice we have a different background. We have a new suite nav. We have all of these different colors that are appearing. And it just looks really clean and nice.
I remember back in my early days as a PM, drawing, like I can draw UI. Let me just go into PowerPoint, draw some boxes. Okay, sure. Designers will put rounded corners on things. Like, sure. I don't know what it is. If it's this, then combinations of rounded corners plus colors plus typography, like at some point it stops being like small little changes and like, oh, wow, this is just way better than it was before. Never mind. I understand why we have design.
I agree with you. That's very well said. It was a difficult project to work on because like you said, there's so many small changes. And I mean, just from a technical side, like how do we even roll out hundreds of minor changes? But then when you see it all come together, that is a really powerful thing, which actually on stage was the first time really that we had everything turned on and lit up to actually do an end-to-end demo. And I feel like I need to share this here because it was such a life-changing experience. I've been 7 years on the team. I've done more conferences than I can count. And this was truly the first time I ever had this experience happen. So I was doing a quick dry rehearsal in my room right before, got the text from Irfan saying that he was all ready. So I closed my computer, throw in my purse, walk down, get a coffee, and go to the room. And we're maybe like 20 minutes from being live, and I open up my computer and plug it in, and nothing happens. In that walk over, I managed to crack the entire internal display and uninstall every single driver on my device. The walk was about 8 minutes long, so it was a devastating walk for that computer. And so as we're sitting there, Irfan's like, what are we gonna do? And so we spent a couple of minutes being like, maybe, I didn't know what had happened, right? So I was like, maybe it just needs to be charged, or like maybe it just needs a little a little like restart. So we're going through all of this, and we start having, the first 50 to 100 people filing in. And a man from IT comes out and he's like, "You want to just use my personal device?" And I'm like, "Well, at this point, that's all we got." So I took the IT computer, I signed in my demo environment, and it was, I think it just like speaks to the crowd being very generous with some applause. They really got to see how things were made behind the scene because they're watching me like install live on the stage sweating. And I was like, this is a very hectic time, but it landed perfectly. And everything went off, without a hitch after those initial 20 minutes. And as an update, my computer is still broken. We're on a rental right now.
I love how you MacGyvered your whole demo there, and it came off flawlessly from everything that we've heard. Like, what was one thing in your demo that you would say really got the crowd excited?
The demo that I think really led to folks getting excited was showing the new UI and then showing the way that the navigation and commanding worked. So now when you go into OneDrive, there's a single big button to create all your new content. And when you create your content, we give you in-place notifications they're just so cool. Like, they float up from the top. It's beautiful UI. They're straightforward. And that notification system is actually what got the audience to interrupt. They interrupted Irfan to be like, "We're going to keep on clapping and stand up for this feature." And so it's absolutely amazing. The energy in the room was very compelling. And I think we were giving away a bunch of swag too and like trying to get more engagement. And so I think after that happened, it was just like everything that anyone had any sort of passion about, they just started like going crazy over it or raising their hands, everything. So it was just a very fun time.
So if I have this right, they were applauding toasts. Is that right?
Yes.
I had toast this morning. Nobody was applauding me, is what I gotta say. So
you need to eat it on stage.
Irfan, what was your magical moment in the demo that you gave?
A few things. Like, I've been working in the sharing and collaboration space for the last few months, and there's been a lot of changes that we have done in our sharing experience. And in general, when you look at our announcements during N365, this was more focused around OneDrive, the new OneDrive being faster, simpler, more personalized in terms of how users experience it when they're operating on their files. And so, and sharing is a big part of how users use OneDrive, and it stands at the core of all of the user engagement that happens inside of OneDrive. And we introduced of course, the latest, greatest, simplified share dialogue. That again, we had heard a lot of useful feedback over the years from our customers around, how we can, opportunities to simplify it, make it more streamlined, make it less busier, than what it is. And so we've taken a lot of that feedback and done a lot of research, a lot of design work, soul searching, if we call it that way. And then we sort of, came up with this, our new simplified share dialogue, which I'm super excited about. The team is excited about putting it in front of our users, broad set of users. And so that was one area where, I saw a lot of these mobile phones come out and started recording the moment we were live demoing the share dialogue, and the simplifications that we have incorporated in that, the manage access piece of it.
One thing I want to go back to when you were talking about the UI and the home experience, Miceile, because one of my favorite features is the personalization aspects that you sort of showed off. I feel like every time I see some of that stuff, it's like kind of what you guys were talking about earlier, where if you have great UI on something that you use every single day, and it doesn't feel utilitarian, it doesn't feel like you just feel better at the end of the day when you're using something that's fun and engaging and delightful. And so talk to our listening audience here about what do we got in the way of personalization that's going to get people excited?
Absolutely. I love that you also love this concept that we're landing, where we are trying to make OneDrive yours. We have a home that's customized to you, but that's just the start, right? That's just the first thing you see when you land. The things that we're adding make the OneDrive app something that you look at and looks like something that you've made your own. And the one thing that I think is probably the biggest crowd pleaser and definitely blew up on Twitter the days that we were there is colored folders. And so what that means is when you go and you have a folder in your OneDrive or you're creating a new one, you can actually make it a color that's custom to you. And then, of course, the next question I always get is like, well, how does that color persist? It persists to anyone that you share it to. And so the way that this revolutionized the way that I work with my team is I say, put your file in the blue folder. I don't know what psychological explanation there is for why that's just easier and better than saying, put the file in the folder named X. But it just is. It makes sense to people when you say throw it in that blue folder. And so being able to change the way those look and feel, huge. But then, in addition to that, we have the ability that, we kind of mentioned too here, these single filter clicks. So if you are on, a list of files and you want to be able to quickly see from someone that sent it to you or what file type it is, it's a single click, which is amazing because if you've been around our product for a while, it was about a 6 to 7 click experience to just find Word files. So we're adding that single click, and then we also added a filter bar. So kind of looks like a place where you can go and start typing, but what it does that I really enjoy is it pulls in what you're typing across any scenario. And let me explain what I mean by that a little bit more here. We have an activity column that we've launched inside of the way that we render our files. So it'll tell you, if a file was just commented on or had been opened recently, or maybe someone edited it, since you have. So when I go into that filter bar and I type for a name or something, it'll actually go through that activity column and show me based on what the activity is going on. And so it really becomes more powerful. It thinks the way that humans think is kind of what I'm describing here. And I absolutely love using it personally. I've been using it for months at this point. We're starting to roll out, very exciting. Our first initial batch will be going out as soon as next week. And so I'm thrilled to hear what customers are going to say. Irfan, what are you thinking about with the personalization there?
Yeah, so I think you essentially covered most, if not everything here in terms of personalization. I think you covered file recommendations, where getting to the file at the right time when you are in that motion of looking for that specific file and having that all bubble up to you. So OneDrive knows, your usage patterns and the files that you're working on in the recent past and who you're working with, and bubbling those things up for you. Favorites another one, where favoriting a file is another example where a lot of applause around having the ability for users to favorite a file and then have that section where you can actually go quickly, one click, and all your favorite files are available to you.
That's a great feature to bring up too, because it's the same favoriting experience that you see across the Office suite. Yeah, so when you're in PowerPoint and you see kind of your list of favorites or anywhere, it's the same experience. So if you favorite something in OneDrive, it surfaces all the way through and vice versa. And so that's a really cool example that you brought up there.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's not just maybe it's also a good segue here, Arvind, to sort of expand that personalization theme that we have been talking about in terms of our recent announcements at M365 conference, to also look at how we've also focused on coherence aspect of our features. Like, it's not just where we're thinking about like all these new updates, exciting updates that we have inside of OneDrive Web, but also making sure that as users go through the journey of moving from web to desktop Windows, that they sort of get these similar aspects transferred over. So there's coherence in their experience. So when it comes to favoriting their files and having those favorite files show up in their file explorer, and then go from there to looking at file recommendations, and these are consistent as you navigate from your web experience to your Windows experience, and having those similar features show up, light up across throughout your user journey, which is always exciting. This is a key area that we have focused on as we sort of build these features and thought through where all are the touch points as a user goes in their user journey, and we're investing in those areas.
I mean, there's like a bunch of things in there that y'all just discussed that I would love to talk about. But, one thing I will glom onto here is that this coherence idea. I mean, there's only one Microsoft. We are one company. It would make sense that if I go from one app to another, that when I look at my recent documents, they would be the same. Or if I get AI recommendations on a particular file to act on it, that they would be the same across products. And lastly, if there are products that if people are interacting with documents, because like in this day and age, all the documents are just scattered across the wind at your company. They might be on your computer, they might be on the server, they might be in a SharePoint. Having like sort of a singular view that's consistent across applications that helps me get to all my content where it is, that sounds incredibly righteous.
100%. It's also important that, as we think about these features, we also think about what are the touch points from a user point of view, right? So it's we can make a single touch point is extremely compelling, but it's also reality that the user doesn't stick to a single place. We have learned from our users where they are sometimes inside of Windows, and they're also, dealing with files there, and they're on the web, and, the experience should be consistent. It's not where it's disjointed. So we will be paying a lot of attention in those.
We talk about making sure OneDrive plays nicely with the rest of the ecosystem. And we talked a lot about OneDrive Home. One of the other things I'm really excited about are some of the new views that we're bringing into the product that are based on how you interact with the rest of Microsoft. It's not just about going to OneDrive and seeing your recent files, but it's, things like what files were related to meetings that you happen to be in, taking advantage of the power of Teams and bringing that into OneDrive.
What you described is really exciting. And, we go back and forth sometimes when we think about these views where it's like, is it coherence? Is it personalization? Like, what is it that we want to classify these views as? And I think it can be really summarized as it's all of it. So we'll stop dancing around it. The two new views that we launched is one called People and two called Meetings. And what that means is in the People view, you literally get a list of people that you've done something with in your company, whether it's shared a file, commented on a doc that they wrote, opened something that you found from them on Delve, and you get this list of them, and you're able to see all of the connections that you have in the context of documents. And I love this because when you're collaborating, it is so much easier to remember, like, oh, I just shared that file with Irfan, instead of saying, wait, what did Irfan name that deck? Like, I don't remember what he named it because I just opened it when he sent it to me. And so it really makes it easy to find the content. And it's just what you described, Stephen, where it's all based on the suite, right? Like you can share that content anywhere and it's going to appear in the single view. But of course, tons of work gets done in meetings. I don't know if you guys have had this. I did this all the time where you have a meeting, a bunch of stuff shared, the meeting ends and you have this like chat that went on and like you have to scroll back between all the memes and like funny comments to find that one document that was shared. And I mean, sometimes it can take like almost 10 minutes from start to end, right? Like by the time you find that meeting in the chat and you scroll. And so what this meeting view does is it shows you any documents that were used during that meeting. And so what I mean by that is if you share an invite to someone and you attach a document, boom, in the view. If you record the entire meeting, in the view. If you send things in chat or you send things like sharing even, it'll appear in this view. And then if you have a reoccurring meeting, it keeps piling them up. So again, we have team meetings every week, and boy, does it take forever to scroll like 3 weeks back in the chat to find a document that you might not have put in the right place. So this one view shows you everything in the context of that meeting, which is a really powerful reframe of how you find content. It's a much more human-centric way to think about finding files, as opposed to us giving you kind of this like database that's sorted in a very specific way, and it's being more flexible to say, just OneDrive works the way that you think. And that's why I love that question where I was like, so are you going to do emails next? Because I was like, yes, this means we're clicking with the way that our customers are actually trying to engage with their content. Like the meeting scenario was so easy for them to understand and try to leverage when we ship it, that they're like, we have to scroll through email and that's so painful. Like we don't want to do that anymore. Can you just bring it to us? And I think it really shows that we're kind of going in the right direction for what our customers need for their content.
I think you said it best. Like we are helping customers use OneDrive in the way that makes sense to them. Like it is I need to find a document. Is it the document I was interacting with Miceile and I'm searching based on Miceile? Is it, oh, I remember it was in that meeting for like M365 collab prep. Let me go find the meeting and get the document that way. Or is it, I've organized it and Miceile said it's in the blue folder. I will go find the blue folder. And just regardless of how your brain works, whether you're that, super organized person, whether you just remember faces, remember names, you can get back to your stuff. Like that is just so powerful.
Yeah, that just gave me goosebumps. I think that's a really great way to think about it. The metric that we sometimes will share out, and I think it's cool that we're connecting with our customers in this way, is we really want you to land on OneDrive and take seconds to find the content you're looking for. Like we're not talking minutes. We're talking 10 to 30 seconds to find the thing you need. And when you put that into perspective of a day's work, like that is saving time across the entire platform, entire ecosystem that we have. And so that ultimately is our goal, right? So people listening, like mentioned in the beginning of this, they're going to start taking questions and feedback. And I mean, if there is something that you do on OneDrive that is taking you more than 10 to 30 seconds, like let us know, because that's something that we really want our customers to start thinking like this is not something that you should spend time in. It's something that should help you save time in your job. It's cool to see the shift. I love it. I think it's really shifting from heavy content management to just find your stuff fast. Yeah, and one thing that I kind of forgot to share is this podcast was introduced as the one-stop shop for everything OneDrive. And we look at OneDrive as the one-stop shop for everything for your home files, or for everything for your files inside of Microsoft. And so one thing that will also be coming out around the summer is the ability to see more than just files. So if you want to see your lists or your loop or your Figmas, they will just appear inside of OneDrive and you can interact with them the same as if it was a Word document.
I'm going to try and summarize in a nutshell, but I think the thing I'm most appreciative about the talk that you both gave and the message that really resonated with customers is, Miceile, I think you said it best, actually. Like, it is your OneDrive. It is your files, your recommendations based on what you do with your work. It's your folders with the colors that make sense to you, that give it your kind of flavor. It's your people that you work with, your meetings that you attended, and the files that were interacted with. I don't know, there's like a magic to that and then you wrap that in the beautiful OneDrive UI that the team has put together, and there is something there. Like, it's weird. Like, we've been working on a lot of this stuff for a while now. And as it all starts to kind of come together and all these little pieces start to show up together, you're just like, oh, this is the new OneDrive. Like, it's not just, a little bit of a refresh. It is not just a new feature here or there. It is us rethinking and
reimagining.
Exactly.
That's amazing to think about, because I think we have the best design team in the world, and they can set a vision of how the design is supposed to look. And then when you bring in AI, these new views, human-centric thinking to finding files, new concepts of filtering, combined with our engineering team breaking new grounds in performance, it all comes together in an experience that just makes it, you just don't even think about using it because it's so easy. And that coming together is, I've been living in that for a while. And so it's nice to see, okay, yeah, like the rest of Microsoft's now going to get to see this. And then our actual customers are going to get to see this. Like, I forget, I've just been blissfully living on all the dev builds for months. I was like, I can't go back to the old way of collaborating on content.
So, $1 million question. We've talked about a bunch of great features. When can customers expect to get their hands on them?
So we are saying the summer, and I always like to clarify, we're using Seattle summer. So that means specifically July, and there's approximately 30-day window where the sun's out, and that's when we're going to ship. And so we're going to roll this out the way that we always roll out our experiences, where we're going to go into the targeted rings first, and then we're going to go to worldwide. And like I mentioned, we're starting these rollouts as early as next week, with our goal of having everything that you saw at the conference, with one exception of one feature. We're really targeting everything in the hands of customers by the summer, 100% rolled out, which will be one of our fastest rollouts that we've seen, but we think it's going to be so worth it. So starting as early as next week and going through the summer.
Yeah, and I think for sharing as well is the same that Miceile mentioned. It's just, over the next couple of months, you will see from the simplified shared dialogue to the new copy link experience, in terms of the managed access, the revamp on the experience that we have done, all the way to like the sharing that we talked about, the updates in terms of how we automatically just updates the link settings for you. All of that is going to be, you'll see it roll out slowly over the course of the summer. 2-3 months, you'll see all it live in action across all our user base. So super exciting.
It's a big summer. It's a big summer here.
We got to get everything launched by summer so we can actually enjoy the summer, I think.
Like you said, we get like 30 days of summer here in Seattle. So when Microsoft does summer, we do it big.
There you go. And Irfan will just be suffering in the sweltering heat.
There is going to be 3 months of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Luckily, I'm not going to be here the entire time, but still.
Ooh.
Well, Miceile, Irfan, thank you so much for joining us on this kind of, it's not really inaugural, but I'm going to call it the inaugural Sync Up podcast.
Re-inaugural.
Re-inaugural? Is that a word?
Yeah, I just made it up. It's cool.
Okay, I'm going to go with it. But thank you for joining us. Where can people, if they want to find out more about you, if they want to follow you, get cool tips on colored folders and things, Miceile, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I have a Twitter that I use mostly for just one-on-one messaging, but I will also post updates. My handle is Microsoft Miceile, so MSFT Miceile. My name's spelled in the Gaelic language, so a little confusing there.
Yeah. And what about you, Irfan? Where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter as well, although I'll disclaimer that I'm not as active. It's at Shahdad, ISHAHDAD, and you can look me up there, and I'll sometimes post some of the new coolest things that we've been working on. I would add one other thing. We actually have a monthly Teams meeting where it's called the OneDrive Office Hours, where we talk about OneDrive commercial education, to our customers, partners, MVPs. There we can ask, all these, customers and MVPs can ask us questions, share feedback. And we also sometimes talk about some of the latest features that we've been working on. It happens third Wednesday of every month at 8 a.m. PST. If you don't have an invite, Paul Diamond probably has it listed on his Twitter site. You have to complete a form. It's a short form, and then you'll be part of that invite. And that's one place that I would highly recommend everybody to be there for all the latest greatest that's happening in OneDrive space.
Those office hours are cool. I know you're kind of leading them, and I sat in on the last one, which was my first time, and there was a little bit of prepared content that was new, but then all the customers were able to ask questions, and the chat continued after.
One of the best things that happened through this office hours is the community that's been built, and a lot of times we've seen customers actually share best practices amongst each other, and that learning from each other is one of the best ways that we've seen it grow, and we're excited about it. So I'm looking forward to all of you joining there.
Cool. It's like a OneDrive party.
Always fun. In addition, if you want to learn more about OneDrive and the latest and greatest, you can check out the blog that we've been talking about. It is at aka.ms/OneDrive/blog. That'll take you there. As Arvind mentioned, there's a lot of great content that's going to be posted there throughout the month, every month, which is really exciting. If you want to find me, you can find me at LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/srice08. And Arvind, where can folks find you?
They can also find me on LinkedIn because I'm not interesting enough to tweet. I'm at /Arvind Mishra with the number 1 at the end.
That's because you're the number 1 Arvind Mishra, or because you work on OneDrive, right?
I think so. I think I was first to sign up on LinkedIn with that URL.
Well, I think that wraps up this month's episode of the Sync Up podcast. Thank you all for listening, and have a great day.
We love hearing from you. If you want to reach us on Twitter, you can reach us at OneDrive. If you've got a question, please tag it with #SyncUp. You can visit our page for links, resources, and more at aka.ms/SyncUp.
Yeah, and as always, don't forget to subscribe to Sync Up wherever you get your podcasts. So whether that's Apple, Spotify, whatever platform, we should be there. And if we're not, tell us so that we can make sure that we are there. And as always, please tell your friends about the podcast if you learned something interesting, if you found it entertaining. Word of mouth is by far the best way to get people engaged and help us grow the show. And of course, if you're curious about other Microsoft podcasts, you can check out aka.ms/Microsoft/podcasts.